Ever heard someone say the Civil War wasn't really about slavery, but about states' rights? It's a common myth, but it's just that, a myth. The historical evidence is crystal clear, and it comes directly from the people who started the war, so let's look at what they actually said and wrote back then. The truth is, the Civil War was fundamentally, unequivocally, about preserving and expanding the institution of slavery. First, let's examine the breakup letters themselves, the Declarations of Secession. When the Southern states decided to leave the Union, they wrote down exactly why. South Carolina, the first to secede, complained about the North's increasing hostility to the institution of slavery and their failure to return escaped slaves. They were mad that other states weren't enforcing their property rights over human beings. Mississippi was even more direct. Their declaration states, "Our position is thoroughly identified with the institution of slavery, the greatest material interest of the world. There was no choice left us but submission to the mandates of abolition or a dissolution of the Union." They literally said their entire position was tied to slavery. Texas went on to defend what it called the beneficent and patriarchal system of African slavery. These aren't my words. They're theirs. They put it in writing for the world to see. Next, let's listen to the second in command of the entire Confederacy, Vice President Alexander H. Stephens, in March 1861. He gave a famous speech known as the Cornerstone Speech. He laid out the philosophical foundation of their new nation. He said, and I quote, "Our new government's foundations are laid. Its cornerstone rests upon the great truth that the Negro is not equal to the white man, that slavery subordination to the superior race is his natural and normal condition." It's impossible to be more explicit. The Vice President of the Confederacy declared that white supremacy and slavery were the very cornerstone of their government. Then there's the Confederate Constitution itself. It was mostly a copy of the U.S. Constitution, but with some very telling changes. It explicitly forbade any law that would get in the way of the right of property in Negro slaves. It guaranteed that slavery could expand into any new territory the Confederacy might acquire. This is a huge blow to the states' rights argument when it came to slavery. The Confederacy actually wanted a powerful central government to force all its states and territories to protect the institution. The only right they cared about was the right to own people. So what was the final straw? The election of Abraham Lincoln in 1860. Why did this trigger secession? Because Lincoln and the Republican Party's main platform was to stop the expansion of slavery into the Western territories. The South knew that if slavery couldn't expand, it would eventually die out, and with it, their entire economic and social structure. Instead of accepting the results of a democratic election, they chose to tear the country apart to protect their system of forced labor. So where did this states' rights idea come from? It was part of a post-war rebranding campaign called the Lost Cause. After losing the war, former Confederates and their sympathizers began to rewrite history. They tried to paint their rebellion as a noble, heroic struggle for constitutional principles and Southern heritage, conveniently ignoring the millions of people they kept in bondage. This narrative was created to justify the brutal system of Jim Crow segregation that followed. So, while things like tariffs and political power were part of the growing tensions, they were all connected to the central issue of slavery. The primary right the Southern states seceded to protect was the right to own human beings as property and build a nation founded on that principle. The historical documents they left behind leave no room for doubt. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this breakdown helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history. See you next time.